Good morning and thanks so much for tuning in. You're watching Trade Talk on BQ Prime. My name is Alex Matthew and with me is Hiral Dadia. Morning, Hiral.
Good morning, Alex.
Good to have you back this morning. And in fact, yesterday, if it wasn't for one counter in particular, you would have had a downtick on the Nifty 50, but we saw very narrow gains for the benchmark index. The rest of the market, of course, was in the red.
Absolutely. And I think the star performer was Reliance Industries. Very rarely you see these kind of moves, with the Reliance Industries. And I think there's lots to watch out for from the company in the coming months. But clearly, as you mentioned, overall, yes, we did see profit booking that did come in. And most part of the day's gains were erased, during the last hour of trade. The key thing we will be watching out for, Alex, will be the earnings, from here on. Yesterday, we did hear from Tushar in terms of the IT announcements, but clearly, tomorrow is when TCS will be reporting numbers. You have HCL Tech and Wipro after that. So that's going to be a sector that will continue to remain in focus. But apart from that, the key things we are watching out for in today's session is the 50th GST Council meet as well. Now, clearly, what news reports are indicating is that there could be clarity with regards to where supply of the F&B is concerned at cinemas. That is going to be taxable at the rate of around 5%, similar to a standalone restaurant. So this could be positive in terms of stocks like PVR. It will also make clear the 22% cess which is applicable on MUVs and XUVs, which is similar to what was imposed on SUVs. And you have the gaming side of it that will be in focus as well. So the likes of a Delta Corp, NAZARA are few counters that will be in focus. Apart from that, what's interesting is to see how the monsoon-related stocks will pan out in trade. Because if you see we were talking of a rainfall deficit, Alex, of 10%, which has now turned into a surplus of 2% just within 8 days, right? So some bit of momentum in terms of your FMCG plays, especially the likes of a Britannia, that could be in focus. You talk about agri-related companies, agri-chemical-related companies, fertilizer companies. All of these probably will see some bit of traction on the back of the surplus.
But one more aspect to that, of course, you have the total quantum of rainfall, but another very important aspect to look at with regard to rainfall, and perhaps we can touch base with the meteorological department to get a sense of that, is the spatial distribution of it. So you could have very heavy rainfall in one particular area, as we saw in regions in the north, over a very short period of time, and that would reduce the deficit by a very significant degree, but that doesn't mean that we have spatial distribution.
Absolutely. So there could be negative impact in terms of insurance companies as well,
and
right?
crops.
As to crops as well, in terms of the damage that could come in. So it's both sides. So let's see how the entire situation pans out. And point well made, Alex, in terms of what is the distribution, whether the encatchment area is actually getting it or not, or whether it's concentrated.
Absolutely. And in fact, so that's certainly something to watch out for. Yesterday, we were telling our viewers in New Delhi and in the north to be very careful and to only venture out if you absolutely have to. Today, I think it's a little better than what it was yesterday. Having said that, let's turn to the markets now and look at the technical levels to watch out for. I believe the last time you had spoken about levels, you had spoken about 19,450 for the Nifty 50. We more or less around that level right
Absolutely.
now.
So clearly,
350 actually yesterday.
But right now, if you see, what's important is, yesterday's session we did see a mild gap up. And after that, it's a narrow range of 104 points is where markets traded at. Now, there is consolidation between that 19,330 to 19,430 kind of levels. And overall, from a longer term perspective, the consolidation has been ranging between those 19,300 to 19,500 in the previous 5 trading sessions. Now, the key resistance area now, what we're watching out for in terms of Nifty 50 is 19,435, whereas 19,330 is acting as a support. And there is consolidation and profit booking at higher levels. So this is something which as a trend is expected to continue. If you see in terms of the F&O side of it as well, the highest put OI is seen at 19,400, whereas the highest call OI is also seen at 19,400. So as Alex was mentioning, that 19,400, 19,450 is that number which is going to be key for us to watch out for in terms of the directional move that could be anticipated. And both the call as well as the put writers are actually trying to battle it out to understand where to take the Nifty to. In terms of the FPIs, they have been liquidating their long positions in index futures, and this is the first time this is happening since the 23rd of June. So this is going to be an interesting interesting factor to watch out for. And if you see in terms of Bank Nifty as well, now 45,000 is the crucial level where we are seeing heightened activity in terms of the option data. And this is something which will help us give cues in terms of what direction the Bank Nifty will take on either sides as well. So watch out for 45,000, pretty, a
Crucial
level. And from there on, if we see an upside that continues, yes, the journey is going to be an upward one. But if we break those levels, close below those 45,000 levels, then there is a possibility that a further pressure could be built as well.
So yesterday you saw the bank index not do too much. You saw a few of the other indices that lost quite a bit of ground. IT as a pack were the worst performers yesterday, and the ones that fell the most were, of course, the companies that are going to be posting their results over the course of the next couple of days. For now, though, let's turn to Vedanta, and that's a stock that is going to be in focus for multiple reasons. But the biggest headline today, of course, has to do with the exit of Foxconn from their joint venture that was meant to set up a semiconductor plant in India. Rishi is joining in to tell you why that is an important factor to bear in mind, and the fact that Vedanta is committed still to set this up. Rishi, morning.
Yeah, good morning. So absolutely. So as you said, the Foxconn pulled out of the JV, and now Vedanta is saying that it already has partners and it already has a production grade license for 40 nanometers, and it's also working on acquiring another license for 28 nanometers as well. Now, an important note here would be that earlier when Foxconn and Foxconn entered into a JV, it was with the holding company of Vedanta, that was Twin Star Technologies, and not Vedanta itself. But last week, Vedanta acquired the semiconductor and display glass business from Twin Star Technologies. So that may have been one of the recent triggers. Now, Vedanta and Foxconn had signed an agreement in September 2022 to invest $19.5 billion to set up a semiconductor plant in Dholera, Gujarat. Now, both Foxconn and Vedanta have no prior experience in chip making technology, and this was very well known. So they had to bring in a technology partner. Now, they had brought in ST Micro, which is a European chip maker, but the government said that it wanted the European chip maker to have much more skin in the game, or have some kind of stake in the partnership, but ST Micron was not willing to do that, and then their foray into actually finding a technology partner, it halted. Then there were also media reports about the government being concerned about the financial stability of the Vedanta group as a whole. So if you look at recently Vedanta Resources, it took loans worth $450 million from its two principal rivals. So that was something that was concerning. Now currently Foxconn is saying that it is working on removing its name from the JV, and eventually it will become a completely Vedanta-owned entity. So that's something to look out for.
Yes, and the key over here, I think what I pick up is what the government is saying is that you need to have a technology partner absolutely in place to start a fab, what Vedanta is looking to start. And as you mentioned as well, they've already got a license for production grade technology for 40 nanometer, and apart from that, they're also looking to acquire a license for the 28 nanometer as well, right? So clearly a technology partner is a must. As Rishi was mentioning with regards to the European partner, they need to have more skin in the game. So whether they go with another technology partner is something we need to wait and watch. And you already had, Micron that's coming in from the US. And on the back of the deal, there is a possibility a lot more other US-based companies that could start coming as technology partners to the Indian arm. So it's going to be an interesting space
because the government
to watch out for.
And the government functionary here is the Minister of State for Technology is saying that this does not dampen India's ambitions in the semiconductor space. And with everything that's happening globally and the geopolitics surrounding semiconductors, I think India is looking to benefit from everything that's panning out.
Absolutely, and I think they have a target of the first semiconductor chip coming from India in the next 18 months. So let's see how aggressive we are on that front. But moving on, from this semiconductor space to something which is absolutely light in terms of the FMCG sector. Overall, Varun Beverages has been a company, Alex, which has been actually making a lot of noise now. It's had the way it's moved up, it's been like a black horse, which has come up, I think, one of the top 4 FMCG companies now. And if you see in terms of the performance as well, 7 times increase in the last 5 years. what is it that is working for a Varun Beverages, number one? And I think we have a Motilal Oswal as well, which is now talking about the counter.
No, certainly. So this is a counter and company that is known for aerated beverages and also the Tropicana brand of juices, which it has managed to achieve quite a degree of penetration with. But the latest developments from the company that is enthusing brokerages like Motilal Oswal, and they pointed this out in a note very recently, is that they are foraying into the flavored milk and value-added services space, which, according to Motilal Oswal, is a space that could grow as much as 25% CAGR over the course of the next few years, culminating in 2028. Now, the company has done a few tests with distributors, and it has found quite a good response for some of the products that it is planning in the flavored milk space, as a result of which Varun Beverages plans to triple its capacity in that segment in this calendar year itself. Now, apart from that, realizations, according to Motilal Oswal, they're saying that the realizations are expected to increase on the back of growing mix of energy drinks as well as fruit-based juices and value-added dairy products, and that coupled with a higher share of smaller bottles. But they're also pointing out that unseasonal rainfall, and we discussed this a short while back, the impact of weather conditions coupled with lower temperature in the summer, you saw quite a few instances of that, as compared to last year, can lead to muted volume growth in the current calendar year. They're also saying that the earnings is going to be driven going forward by penetration into newly acquired territories in South as well as West India, and the growing of refrigeration in rural and semi-urban markets, or rather semi-rural markets. So that's about Varun Beverages. Clearly a stock to watch. It has performed quite significantly.
And what's interesting over here, Alex, is in terms of PepsiCo's revenues, the share of Varun Beverages has gone up from 45%, I think, in 2015-16 to almost around 90% now, so that's an incredible increase over there. The key risk we need to mark over here is that Varun Beverages is absolutely dependent on PepsiCo. Their formula of success actually has been the Sting, because as a competition to Red Bull, it's got some brilliant sales that has come in. And now they've started to foray into international markets, which are uncharted territories for a Varun. Whether it will augur well for them or not is something we need to wait and watch. But it's going to be interesting from here on to understand how the journey pans out.
Speaking of a fantastic journey, MAZAGON Doc has been a key performer in the recent past. And we saw yesterday that the price hit a 10-fold jump from the IPO price. Let's discuss, and we've been talking about this counter, Hiral, quite often in the recent weeks. But why have we reached this point?
Right. So overall, if you see, as you mentioned yesterday's session as well, the stock has surged almost 10 times since its October 2020 listing. Now, what's interesting to watch out over here is that the company actually signed a 2,700 odd crore contract, and this was for the medium refit cum life certification. Apart from that, they signed a contract with MOU with Tyson Group, and this was to jointly build submarines for the Indian Navy. And with all of this said and done, Alex, they have an order book of 38,755 odd crores. Now, 89% of this order book is related to shipbuilding projects, whereas the remaining 11% are in the submarine as well as the heavy engineering space. If you see from a valuation perspective, the stock is trading almost at around 26.22 times its earnings. And FY23, the revenues have seen a growth of around 36%, profits have jumped around 83%, and a ROE of over 25% is what we've seen, right? So clearly, though it's an industry which is slow in terms of execution,
gestation period is long.
It's very long, right? But the kind of order book, the pipeline that's coming in, the kind of contracts and MOUs that India is signing with other countries as well, that's something which is actually giving a boost to companies like these.
As well as the potential, right? And that you hit the nail on the head, because that $5.4 billion submarine, the P-75 program of the government, which is for 6 submarines, this is going to be a very critical order, because it's a very, very large order that MAZAGON is bidding for in partnership with ThyssenKrupp. And there are other companies that we need to speak about in the same breath as well, Hiral. And we've got Saloni joining in to tell you exactly that, because L&T is also bidding for this same order.
Yes. So yesterday, L&T and the Spanish shipbuilder Navantia, they jointly submitted a bid for the Indian Navy's P-75 submarine program. So this project essentially requires an Indian bidder to tie up with a foreign collaborator and execute the program for the delivery of 6 conventional submarines equipped with air-independent propulsion. So the expected value of this project is a little over 4.8 billion euros. As per the agreement between the two companies, Navantia will carry out the design for the submarines. This happens to be the same project that Mazagon shipbuilders and ThyssenKrupp jointly bid for as well. Then we've got news on Tata Communications. So a wholly owned subsidiary of the company, that is Tata Communications International Private Limited, entered into a share purchase agreement with Oasis Smart SIM Europe to acquire the remaining equity ownership of the company. Tata had previously acquired 58.1% stake in Oasis on 23rd December in 2020. Following this agreement, Tata increased its shareholding to 100% by buying out the remaining 41.9% stake for an acquisition cost of $12 million. Third, we've got MCLEOD RUSSEL. So the board of directors of the company approved the execution of an exclusivity agreement with Carbon Resources Private Limited to exclusively discuss, negotiate, and evaluate the monetization of certain assets of the company. This exclusivity agreement of the proposed asset sale is till 20th July 2023.
Thank you, Saloni, for getting us the details. So, McLeod is going to be an interesting one to watch out for, where further details would be awaited. But apart from these names, a couple of stocks, Alex, that will be in focus on the back of leadership changes as well as fundraise. In fact, fundraise and leadership, both these topics have been in focus, I think, the entire last 15 to 20 days, right?
Yeah.
We've seen a lot happen on that front. Varsha is standing by to get us more. Good morning, Varsha. What is it that you're picking up on the leadership side of it as well as fundraise?
Yeah, so the first one that we have is SBI Cards and Payment Services. So Rama Mohan Rao resigned as the managing director and CEO of the company with effect from August 11. Now, the reason for his resignation is that he's been transferred back to SBI, and the SBI's deputy managing director, Mr. Abhijit Chakravarti, is been nominated as MD and CEO of SBI Cards and Payments. Now, speaking of Mr. Abhijit, he has got experience in retail and corporate banking and IT vertical of the bank. And the next we have NAZARA Technology. So the company is raising funds of rupees 750 crores via equity and equity-linked instruments. Now, the fundraise will be either through one or more QIPs or preferential allotment or mix of both. Now, NAZARA Technologies, which is backed by Mr. Rakesh Jhunjhunwala's family, has seen a lot of acquisitions across gaming categories. Now, the reason why they are raising capital is unknown, but the capital is likely to be used for the acquisition spree that the company is in and to support its growth.
Fantastic. So that's a decent wrap. Thank you so much, Varsha, for joining in and for giving us that perspective. A lot of companies, Hiral, have been posting their business updates also for the quarter gone by, and we've discussed quite a few of them. There's one more, Ugrow Capital, that we have to discuss, and also action in the M&A space. So Himansh is joining you to tell us a little more about that. Let's start with CARTRADE.
Right, sure. So CARTRADE, for one, announced yesterday that it has entered into a share purchase agreement with Sobek Auto India, which is OLX India BV's arm for Classifeeds, Auto Classifeeds recently. It will acquire Sobek for a cash consideration summing up to 537 crores. As the deal is subject to completion of certain terms and conditions, it is expected to take the following 21 to 30 days as the parties may decide. The company also informed the exchange in an exchange filing that Sobek is engaged in the business of running of automotive digital platforms, and it recently acquired the internet Classifeeds business from OLX India through under a business transfer agreement. As of FY22, Sobek's turnover stood at around 1,100 crores. Now, coming on to the business updates and the recent publishings by the company for their quarter one results, Ugrow Capital released their results, and just to broadly speak about a few numbers, their AUM grew at 12% quarter on quarter and showed a 86% growth over the same quarter previous year. Lion's share of their portfolio comes from prime unsecured and secured loans, which hold roughly 31 to 29% of their portfolios respectively. Gross loan origination was down 12% compared to the previous quarter. on account of the Q1 seasonality factor. And a substantial chunk of this quarter's loan origination came from micro enterprise loans. Talking about total debt, it stood at 3,000 crores odd numbers, and there was a consolidation of the lender base this year, this quarter. Now they are consolidating it up to 62 active lenders, standing at roughly 49 per lender exposure. And PAT for this quarter, management estimates around 22 to 24 crores this quarter. There's also Gujarat PIPAVAV that has published their Q1 results. And just to, again, broadly mention a few numbers about the marine services and the container handling service provider. It looks to be a quiet quarter for Gujarat PIPAVAV, as the dry bulk volumes compressed by roughly 3% to 0.67 million metric tons, and liquid bulk volumes were also down by 200,000 metric tons over the previous quarter. Talking about container volumes, they were up 6.4% on a year-on-year basis and remained at the same level as the previous quarter. And lastly, container trains handled, they showed growth by about 10.5%. So overall, it'll be interesting to see how Gujarat PIPAVAV continues to carry forward its momentum in the coming quarters and hopefully pick up some pace, as we could see from the Q2 results coming out.
And that's going to be interesting because it's mainly the mid caps and a lot of potential up move that we're seeing on volumes in the micro cap category as well, right? The volumes on the delivery basis have been really high. The performance has been good. So that's going to be an interesting space to watch out for. But moving on, two counters I want to talk to you, Alex, about is, before that, thanks Himansh for getting us the details. But two stocks I want to talk to you about is IdeaForge and Cyient. IdeaForge a 94% listing gains. Yesterday, you did see profit booking that did come into the tune of, I think the stock closed lower by almost 10%. How it performs from here on is going to be interesting because the key factor that everyone is considering over there is valuations. Are valuations expensive? And that's one of the reasons why we could see some pressure that could continue. And Cyient, which listed yesterday, DLM, which listed yesterday, saw some smart gains, little over 50% in terms of listing. How it pans out in today's session, whether the profit booking aspect does start to creep in, is something we need to wait and watch and see.
Absolutely. As things stand right now, GIFT Nifty indicating just a marginal uptick for the benchmark index. We'll have to see whether that pans out as well and what the texture of the market will be. We'll find out in just a few minutes, and you'll find all of the action right here on BQ Prime.
How do you make the most of the India opportunity as an investor? For that answer, all roads lead to BKC in Mumbai on the 13th of July. Three big money managers describe the size of this opportunity. Two of the largest mutual fund CIOs then tell you about the mega trends that they're investing in. Will the current capex cycle be similar to the one between 2003 and 2008? We get that answer from Sanjeev Sharma of ABB in a conversation with veteran investor Madhusudan Kela. And then we round it off with two of the most prominent investing names talking about how to make the large bets and make it really big. All of this and more at the Trident Hotel in BKC on the 13th of July. Catch the action live on BQ Prime and NDTV.